David Bailey, Behren Morton, and Texas Tech host Bear Bachmeier, Chase Roberts, and BYU in a massive Big 12 showdown. Without a doubt, there are title berth implications on the line here. You would think, without a doubt, the winner of this game will all but be stamping themselves with a chance to get to the Big 12 championship game. I know Texas Tech may need a little bit of help to get there with that one loss already to Arizona State, but it just feels like a win here, and they'll be playing themselves in the Big 12 title game. We could absolutely see this game in a rematch in the Big 12 title game. Getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. We got to break down this matchup. Week 11, the game of the day, a top 10 matchup between the BYU Cougars and the Texas Tech Red Raiders. You need to start, of course, on the Texas Tech side. They've dealt with the struggles because of the injuries to their starting quarterback, Behren Morton. When he has been healthy, he has been one of the better quarterbacks in college football. Why? Because his fearless nature to attack every blade of grass on the football field. His top guy, Caleb Douglas, has been phenomenal throughout the entire season. And then you look at what this team can do on the ground and what they did to Kansas State last week. 187 yards. Jacoby Williams, he had 8 yards to carry, 135 on the ground. He was phenomenal. I'm very excited about this matchup because of the quality of ground game that both of these teams possess. Now, Bear Bachmeier, he's a little bit more of that mobile style quarterback. He led BYU in rushing against Iowa State. He ran the football 12 times for 50 yards. That's stylistically been what he will be. I'm expecting him to probably run the football as many as 15 times against Texas Tech. This is a team in this matchup, as now we look at that BYU versus that Texas Tech, very good defense. They need that rushing yards from the starting quarterback. There cannot be a game here where Bear Bachmeier is back there throwing the football 35 plus times. This pass rush is just too good. Romello Height has been phenomenal, one of the better defensive line players in the country. And then there's David Bailey, who arguably would be the first player taken on the defensive side of the ball in this upcoming draft. I hear all the talk about Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, Ruben Bain. David Bailey has been just as good this season, just as impactful for a team. He's been the best defensive player in the Big 12. I am excited to see Bachmeier go against that quality of defender, but you know who else is behind all of that, who's going to be tracking this man throughout the day? A guy I think that can come up with an interception, a forced fumble at some point. Jacon Rodriguez, this man has All-American written all over it. You know how many forced fumbles he has this season? 7. 7 forced fumbles in 2025. That number might be as high as 10 by the time this season's all but wrapped up. He's played himself into potentially day 2 of the upcoming NFL draft. His ability to go sideline to sideline, come down and hit, his range to be able to cover one of the better defenders in the country for this great Texas Tech defense. For BYU, their quarterback, he cannot turn the football over in a game like this. I believe that the consistency we talked about on the ground from him on that ground game, they will need to use shorter passes as an extension of the run game. Look, this is a two-man wide receiver show. Chase Roberts and Parker Kingston, these are the lead guys. And then you've got the tight end, Carson Ryan. Besides that, you cannot really rely on any bit of receiving yards from anyone throughout this roster. It's those three guys, Roberts and Kingston. That's your dynamic duo, both of them over 500 yards receiving on the season. An impact when you have a second guy to go to. If Roberts is covered, you've got Kingston, and it goes a little bit vice versa. That helps you out so much. And then, of course, a little bit of the impact you can have from your tight end. For Texas Tech, this team on the defensive side of the ball, they're missing Skylar Gill-Howard. You know, I had him penciled in as a guy that could from the earlier part of the year, the way he was playing, I could find himself in All-American conversations. That loss for him being out for the season really hurts them, I think, being able to limit this BYU attack on the ground. But, of course, what has Texas Tech done? When you look at their starting quarterback, he goes down earlier in the season against Utah. Will Hammond steps up. A couple of weeks ago, Will Hammond not as good against Arizona State in a role where he has to fill in for Behren Morton, but it's next man up mentality. These are two teams that are tough. They are hard-nosed. I think that the Big 12 gets a lot of slack as being sort of that air raid style, a lot of points scored. These teams are about toughness, nitty gritty between the tackles, establishing the line of scrimmage, not that perimeter stuff. Yes, they can put the ball on the perimeter, play it towards the boundary, and run up the scoreboard. But truly, the identity of these teams, I feel like Texas Tech, they want to run the football 40 times plus. That's what feels like Texas Tech, their identity to me. And then with that balance, you've got play action, you've got run action off of that, and then Morton can have those open windows over the middle of the field. He's one of the few quarterbacks in college football that consistently can deliver over the middle. Of course, you're going to have your one-on-ones. They're going to attack the edge, the perimeter of that defense for BYU and take their one-on-ones to Caleb Douglas. I mean, this man has been phenomenal this season when given his opportunities. You go one-on-one. He had 2 touchdowns against Kansas State. When you've got a guy that's 6'4", 210 pounds, more often than not, he's going to have a chance to come down with it. I think the narrative of 50-50 balls for a wide receiver like that being called a shot play or ultra aggressive is not really the case. I kind of think it's a conservative play call if it's 1st and 10 and you throw a 40-yard pass down the field to Caleb Douglas. Like, the very worst that's going to happen is that ball's going to fall incomplete. You're looking at 2nd and 10. That thing's not getting intercepted if it's not the worst throw you've ever seen down there. You throw it up, give the ball enough air for Douglas to make a chance to make a play on the football. Unless it's triple covered, it's just a smart play. I think you go to that 4 or 5 times. Look, BYU, this is a stout team in the middle, in the trenches. They're not going to have very easy yards, I wouldn't think, getting through that BYU team. This is a team that is very well coached. I'm excited about which team from a defensive line standpoint can establish that line of scrimmage. I'm looking at Jack Kelly on that defensive side of the football, the linebacker for BYU. This is a guy that needs to step up. There's impact-type plays you need to make as a senior in the biggest game of his career at this stage. We talked about Jacon Rodriguez. You know he's showing up. What about Jack Kelly? What type of impact can he make? I mean, Bodie Schoonover, this guy is the type of upperclassman now that has to show up in games like this as a defensive end, making an impact. If Behren Morton has time to throw, if this defense is able for BYU to get pressure on the quarterback, it starts to change the narrative here. Look, I think Texas Tech wins this game because I trust the attack of their offense a little bit more. At times, BYU seems a bit reliant on Bachmeier to me. That's what it looked like. When I go back to that Arizona game that went to overtime, that 4th quarter, that second half, they're down. It's Bachmeier's leg. He's creating the entire game. They were struggling to move the football. Bachmeier's just putting that team on his back, getting it all done. They need to have the little bit of supplanted run yards from someone else from this offense when you have a road, not a road game, when you're playing at Texas Tech, AT&T Stadium. This thing could get away from you if you don't have that balance. Look, if I'm BYU, I'm trying to shorten this football game. I don't want to go toe-to-toe, head-to-head in a shootout here with the Red Raiders. That plays into their style where Texas Tech can get that scoreboard rolling, and then you're playing into a type of game that you don't want to. Look, expecting Behren Bachmeier to throw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, that's just not realistic. So shortening the game, playing to their style that they enjoy, and they want to drag teams into the deep end. That's what BYU does. Whereas Texas Tech, they're like, all right, let's open this thing up to a meadow and let's get into an old-fashioned cowboy shootout here in Texas. I mean, this is exactly what they want to do. And then they're a team that can punch you in the mouth, ground and pound, go on stretches where they run the football 6-7 plays in a row to establish that identity. I'm going to go with Texas Tech in this one. I think that it's very close with Tech pulling away late, 30-23. I believe that they get that win. I'm most interested in how a team potentially responds after it's all said and done. Who gets the loss in this one? I mean, Texas Tech, you think about it though, a loss here most likely ends their season. A 10-2 Big 12 team that they really would not have a path to get to the title game anymore at that stage, whereas BYU a loss, they still have enough left on the schedule with the matchup looming still with Cincinnati, a chance to get themselves into the Big 12 title game for a potential rematch. So let me know down below in the comments, who do you think wins this game? I believe it's the defense that gets more pressure on the quarterback and can stop the run. Say all you will about these quarterbacks throwing the football. I think it comes down to the ground game, time of possession, tackles for loss, sacks, disruptive plays, the team that doesn't have as many penalties. People love the turnovers, the third down, red zone. I think it comes down really a lot more so to time of possession, controlling the football, keeping your offense on the field and the ball away from the other guys, whoever has potentially the ball last in this one. Let me know down below who you think wins this game. If you have not already, please subscribe for more Blitz with Blender content in the future. If you don't know, I am Josh Blender. I make college videos. I preview every NFL game of this season. We're fired up that we've got this matchup, the only top 10 matchup we've had so far in the month of November. There's going to be a couple more we can predict here, but holy cow, this one is legit. It's one of the best. It flew under the radar early, but then you've got I think game day going out there, so all the festivities will be available for it. I hope everyone enjoys the game. I thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you so much. Again, helping me out with a comment, a like, subscribing for more content if you enjoyed. Helps me out so much. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.